Left tackle, Jackson Carman. Left guard, Matt Bockhorst. Center, Cade Stewart. Right guard, Will Putnam. Right tackle, Jordan McFadden. Tight end, Braden Galloway. Wide receiver, Joseph Gada. Quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Running back, Travis Etienne. Wide receiver, Amari Rogers. Wide receiver, Cornell Powell. That rounds out your offense. On defense, defensive end, Justin Foster. Defensive tackle, Tyler Davis. Defensive tackle, Niles Pickney or Jordan Williams or Brian Bresee. And then defensive end, KJ Henry. Then you've got nickelback, Mike Jones Jr., middle linebacker, James Skalsky, and weak side linebacker, Balin Spector. Sorry, I get the wide receiver mixed up there. Cornerback, De'Aaron Kendrick and Lee Anthony Williams. Strong safety, Landon Zanders. Free safety, Nolan Turner. And cornerback, Andrew Booth Jr. or Mario Goodrich. A lot of ors there. I didn't say or for Lee Anthony Williams. I needed to say that too. And then you got place kicker BT Potter and punter Will Spires there on the list. So there's a lot of ors there. So let's start with that on the round table. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on these ors? So I'm going back here looking at the ors. I really don't see any ors on offense, but I see ors on defense. Now, the first thing is the defensive tackle. Niles Pickney or Jordan Williams or Brian Bresee. Al, what are your thoughts on that interior defensive tackle position and the fact that we've got three guys that are in bold?
Well, I think it's a testament to Brian Bresee. It's a guy we've been talking about for a long time. Okay, everybody knows him. Everybody thinks he's going to make the big splash. I actually did an article about him last week or something like that, I believe it was. And I mean, it blew up all over Facebook. They love talking about Bresee. This guy has been hyped up to a level that just most people haven't been. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what he can do. And I think he's earned that. I mean, I think obviously he was kind of slow. We didn't hear a lot about him in the very beginning. He had a little knee injury from basketball or an ankle injury or something. And he came back from that, the Brian Bresee we expected, from the very beginning. So he's been doing good. I think he's going to end up starting sooner rather than later. I think he's just that talented. It's just going to take him a little while to obviously kind of learn what's going on. And I mean, that's typical of all freshmen, right? So I think you're going to have to look out from him. We've talked about Niles Pickney and Jordan Williams as well. I honestly would rather see Jordan Williams trot out there initially, but Niles Pickney is no slouch. Let's be honest. So it just you see that other line, Tyler Davis. He's the guy. You know that there's no or over there. They didn't put Tyler Davis or Niles Pickney. They know what Tyler Davis can do. He's a sophomore now. He had an incredible freshman season. Look for him to build upon that. But yeah, I'm not all that surprised by what we saw in that.
No, I agree on that one as well. I think with Jordan Williams and with Niles Pickney, you've got two guys that have produced, have done well over the last couple of years, and they do need to be rewarded for the work that they've put in. Look, I am a pro Jordan Williams guy. Remembering what he did in his first game in 2018 against Furman, just absolutely blowing up that running play in the fourth quarter. I remember around that time, my wife was wanting to go ahead and head out since the game was in hand. And as we were walking into the portal to leave, I could hear the hit in the upper deck and being like, that kid is going to be really good. And seeing him and Niles Pickney. But at the same time, look, Brian Bresee is a stud, and it's going to be impossible to keep him off the field. And I think they wanted to put him on the depth chart as an or because he's going to see immediate action. He may not be the first person that trots out on the field, but he's going to get out there early and often, and he's going to be an absolute animal out there. And I'm more than excited to see this defensive line unit.
Well, I mean, if you've watched the show, you know that it's no surprise to us. I've talked about Brian Bresee. I've talked about Myles Murphy so much, especially when I walked into practice and saw these guys with my own two eyes. I mean, these guys are monsters, and it's not a surprise to me at all where they're at, considering that, I mean, really, Jordan Williams, we love you. We're not saying anything bad about the person, but, as far as depth chart is concerned, he's really kind of struggled to solidify himself as a starter. Niles Pickney did well in the national championship game, but also kind of didn't really seem like that next big star in the defensive tackle position. Brian Bresee, though, is definitely that guy that we assume is going to be the next big star at Clemson wearing the Tiger Paw. And so we're all looking forward to that. But we also know that we need to curb our expectations because he is just a true freshman. And even Brent Venables came out and said that they are overperforming based on his expectations so far. He wasn't willing to say how awesome they were because that's kind of what I'm here for. It's to drool over them and to tell you how awesome they are and how awesome they look. Brent Venables is really there to kind of knock them down a notch and say, hey, this is a different type of game you're getting ready to play. This is not high school. However, these guys just straight up dominated in high school. If you watch any of the film, Brzee, I think we said previously, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, a J.J. Watt and Ndamukong Suh type hybrid guy that can just destroy you off the snap. He is going to give a lot of teams trouble this year. I'm excited to see. Really, to be honest with you, it is not a surprise. A guy his caliber, he's got to be somewhere. Now, I'm a little bit surprised that they loaded up all three. Now, and I'll say this being just a host, maybe you guys can tell me more about this. Is there a big difference between the Tyler Davis defensive tackle position and the Pinckney Williams-Brzee defensive tackle position? Because I don't really see it. So why would you load up one and not the other? That's my question.
Well, personally, Houston can tell me if he disagrees. I don't think there's much of a difference, but I think it's the fact that they wanted to just let you know Tyler Davis is the man. I think that's kind of the shout out there. They wanted to let you know he is the starter. He is the only starter. That's why they put 3 oars as opposed to an oar by his name. They know, the coaches know how these individual players take these, oars in the depth charts, and sometimes it's used as motivation. Sometimes it can work against them. If a player sees it as a slap in the face, who knows, what they may be thinking and what kind of private conversations they're having. I don't know. But I think they just wanted to let Tyler Davis know, look, you're the man, you're the best we have as of right now. And we wanted to kind of let everybody know that. I think that's kind of the reason they singled him out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The other part about this that we're probably not factoring in is also personnel and formation grouping as well. I don't see how often we'll see more than a 4-man front, but let's just say if we get into maybe a third and short situation where we need a bigger body in case it may be a rundown, you might see one of those extra guys pop in there to be some beef on the line. So I think they're just showing that these guys who are in this battle are going to have plenty of reps to get in there, whereas Tyler Davis has solidified that other spot.
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach as well, or that thought as well. I think that Tyler Davis, if you look at it, I mean, he's probably going to be the starter no matter what the down is, no matter what the yardage is, no matter what game it is, or if it's a run or a pass, heavy formation. Davis is going to be out there, like you guys said. Those other 3 guys could definitely interchange depending on the situation. Now, do you think Brzee is more of a guy going to be out there in a running type situation, or more of a guy is going to be out there in a passing type situation?
Well, I guess it depends on where they are. If they're on the goal line, I wouldn't be surprised to see Brzee lined up as a defensive end. To be honest with you, get some extra beef there. I don't think it's really going to make a difference. I think I don't want to say they're all similar because their games are different, of course, but they're all big enough to handle themselves at the line of scrimmage if we need it. So I'm not too worried about that.
No, I would say it's not going to be a matter of let's see what Brzee can do, and he's going to be more or less pigeonholed to a run or a pass. Mm-hmm. I think this is more or less going to be, if it is Niles Pinckney or Jordan Williams that trots out on the first series, it might be a little bit ceremonial. Whereas you'll see second drive, Bryan Brzee come in, and if he makes an immediate impact, he'll gain that, what you'll say, market share of snaps from the rest of the players. I think that's going to be more ceremonial, that you'll see Jordan Williams and Niles Pinckney, and then eventually it'll be Bryan Brzee.
Now, it could be in order of down. First down Pinckney, second down Williams, third down, oh no. So could be that too. Just keep a lookout. Now, further down on the list, we've got one thing I did want to say too, wasn't a an or situation, but James Skalsky, they've got a pound sign next to him saying that he had a targeting call in the national championship game. He's not going to be able to play the first half of this coming game this Saturday. So he won't be there. It looks like, I guess, next man up, and that will be Jake Venables. I'll be interested to see. I'm really excited for that, to see what Jake can do. And then maybe see some Kane Patterson. I've really liked to see this guy last year. Didn't see him much other than, some cleanup time, but I want to see what Venables and Patterson can do with the amount of time that they have. They got 2 quarters to go out there and show on film what they can do in a live game. This is it for them. They need to be focused and ready to go. And then the oars, again, to keep going on with that theme, DK and LeAnthony Williams. I was going to go back and look at some film on Williams just to see. DK 6 foot 190 junior. LeAnthony 5'11", 185 redshirt junior. What are your thoughts on that when you glance at that? Is it just kind of there as they're going to kind of bounce off of each other? You think that Williams could really give a run to Kendrick, who was really kind of the returning starter?
Yeah, I think Kendrick's the guy there. I think he's going to be the mainstay there at the cornerback position. I think it's kind of a nod to Anthony Williams and his tenure and his work ethic. You know, all signs have pointed to him turning it around, and I'm sure he's had a great camp. I'm not saying he can't play by any means. I think the coaching staff has been really high on him this offseason. It's kind of one of those situations that I'm looking at. You know, he was kind of a guy they expected certain things from him at Clemson. Nobody has seen it yet, and maybe he's one of these late bloomers who kind of comes on his junior, senior season. I always like to think of a Kevin Dodd when, you know, how he came, you know, out of nowhere to have a really great season his senior year, defensive end. So I'm thinking it's kind of something like that, but I would expect Derion Kendrick to be the man there.
Agreed. And, you know, I think this might speak to, look, Derion Kendrick is a Swiss Army knife of an athlete with us. And so I don't know. I haven't been to any practices or read anything on this, but, you know, is this something that maybe they're working him a little bit more special teams or other positions or whatever? That might be just far off speculation. I'm not saying that's the case. I think it more speaks to Big Al's point. Lee Anthony Williams may have turned the corner and had an amazing summer and fall camp. And so that's why they're listing him as an or, just because they want him to get some time in against Wake Forest and, you know, show that he's really had some growth over the offseason.
And I would assume you guys are kind of thinking the same way with this Andrew Booth Jr. and Mario Goodrich situation as well. These guys are more similar in height and weight, both 6 foot. Booth, 195, a sophomore, and then Goodrich, a 190 junior. Neither one of these guys were redshirted, and so they're coming in fighting for that starting position. Another one where I think, you know, you got two guys that are, you know, talented. Obviously, Booth comes in as the higher-rated high school recruit, but Goodrich is also a guy who his players have voted him as an up-and-coming rising star in some of those previous team banquets that we talked about at the end of the year. So a lot of his peers think that he has what it takes to take it to the next level. And talking about next level, we got one player left to talk about that I want to talk about taking it to the next level on the offensive side. But going back to this cornerback situation, is it the same situation? Do you think that Booth and Goodrich are really truly fighting it out? Just to give you my answer to the previous one, I agree too. I think Kendrick this is his job really to lose more than Williams and Kendrick fighting over neck and neck in this situation.
You know, I think they are fighting this out. I think, you know, Andrew Booth comes in as the big-time 5-star with the measurables. You know, he's just kind of got superstar written all over him. Mario Goodrich obviously has got a season on him. I believe he had, you know, he came in last year. Goodbit had a big interception. I believe it was against Syracuse that kind of turned the momentum. And I actually pegged him as the starter. I think you picked Sheridan Jones. I think I picked Mario Goodrich as the, you know, other starter at cornerback when we were kind of, you know, projecting into the future or whatnot. And then Booth, and mainly a lot of that's because Booth was, you know, has been hampered by injury. So I really don't know. He's back. He seems to be back better than ever, ready to rock and roll on that knee. So, yeah, I think it's a legit battle. I think it's going to go into the season.
Agreed. I think you're going to see. I'm surprised we didn't see Sheridan Jones' name thrown on there as well, but it might speak to that Booth has really just taken off in camp. And I kind of figured that would be the case with him being as touted as he was. And I believe he was having a great, you know, spring his first year when he came along. So I think it's just a battle. And what we need to be talking about is how good this looks in prospects of depth on our secondary. When you have battles like this, for both corner spots, that's good for all parties. I think if we're looking at a depth perspective for our secondary, for Clemson's secondary.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see because you got Sheridan Jones on the other side. So not in bold is kind of like the third string, second string guy. DK or Lee Anthony Williams, and then Sheridan Jones on that side of the ball. I'm sure there's technicalities behind what side of the ball you're going to be on based on your strengths and weaknesses. You guys can lecture me on that later. I don't really care. I just want the best guys out there no matter what side of the ball they're on. And I think this kind of fits into what we were expecting for sure. Fred Davis is going to keep pushing it as well. But again, it's one of those things where I don't expect some true freshmen to come in there because it's really hard for any position on Brent Venables' side of the ball to come in as a true freshman right off the bat. And I don't think it's a bad thing for Sheridan Jones either. He's still just a sophomore. He had a great spring game last year and kind of had some highlights for sure in some of those games throughout the season. But with the lack of a spring game and the lack of some of the drills that they're able to do with the whole situation that's been going on, I'm sure it's been tougher for some of these guys who are on the fence to really get their name out there. So this is kind of a game where it's a get your name out there type game because of the opponent, I believe. This is one of those games that I want to see those backups really take it serious. Now, I know they will. I'm not saying that they're not, but I really want to see who has the right mentality going into this game, because this could be one. If you look at last year's score, this could be one where they're going to get the chance, the opportunity to come out and show what they've got. The other I think we got time for this for segment one, but the other is Trenton Simpson and Tyler Venables kind of splitting over the backup of Mike Jones Jr. I'll turn it around to Houston and go down to Houston. Now he's clapping about this and he's excited. But Mike Jones Jr. is obviously that Isaiah Simmons replacement. But even though we know Isaiah Simmons is not being replaced, so this is going to be a different kind of scheme, different kind of requirements coming for Mike Jones Jr. for sure. But Trenton Simpson was kind of that guy we were expecting. Tyler Venables was originally, in my mind, like a safety. So what in the world is he doing down there at nickelback? Maybe they liked him there. I didn't see Malcolm Green, but I'm hearing a lot of his name out there. I don't see him on this list, so I'll go to you, Houston.
Well, I think for all three of those, I don't know if Malcolm Green is going to be necessarily put at nickelback or if he's going to be put in the safety position, or maybe he is more of the type like Isaiah Simmons where Malcolm Green can be put in multiple positions. With Trenton Simpson, I cannot wait to see this kid play. I was thrilled to see him accept our offer and commit to us. I don't think he's necessarily the same body type as an Isaiah Simmons, but I do think his athletic prowess is going to be one of the best linebackers we've ever had. I mean, he was a running back in high school. He's a great running back in high school. He could have come here and played running back if he wanted to, but I mean, linebacker is his passion, and I can't wait to watch him play. And then with Tyler Venables, I think that's an encouraging sign. He was a quarterback in high school, kind of a someone who projected to be in the secondary like a safety. So to know that he's bulked up enough to play nickelback, I think he's athletic enough to kind of provide, I guess you could say, spell out anybody or provide a spell for anybody like Mike Jones or Trenton Simpson, whoever comes in, and I think be able to play at a high level ability. His last name's Venables. Let's be real. His last name's Venables. He's going to be just fine.
Well, dang. Houston stole exactly what I was going to say about Venables. His last name's Venables. Who cares, right? I mean, look, yeah, he's an athlete. I think he can cover. I think he can do anything. I'm glad to see, or I kind of like what Houston said about him bulking up. I hadn't really noticed that. I must have missed that when the weigh-in came, that he bulked up enough to play that position. But I'm all for that. Again, I know he's been around it his whole life. So I'm just because he's played quarterback or played safety or whatever it was, I'm not worried that he can mentally grasp this part of the system. Okay, I'm sure he eats, sleeps, and breathes it. But yeah, Trenton Simpson, a freak of nature, kind of a huge get. We swooped in at the last minute after the Justin Flo kind of thing went south, so that was a huge pickup. Very, very grateful to get that. This kid seems like a Clemson fit through and through, so that's exciting stuff. And I think y'all had mentioned Malcolm Green earlier. There's a lot of talk about him from the coaches, and I had a back and forth with Billy Sigmund on here a minute ago in the chat. And if you'll go back, you need to go back to our film review when we after Malcolm Green committed. I believe it was when we did our film review on him, and I mentioned him kind of being like a surprise star of the class. I really liked him and his ability to cover. I think he can play safety. I think he can play cornerback. I think he can play the nickelback slot. I think he can play anything. And I just love his versatility. I love the way he keeps his eyes on the quarterback, and he also seems to be a Clemson kid through and through. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And I'm really hoping he can kind of get out of the shadow of that 3-star rating he had and show that he's a big-time player.
Yeah, I think he came out of Daniel, right? But he also was a pretty highly awarded player when he played in high school. He was a guy who I think for his division, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know exactly what his award off the top of my head. I know we've already talked about him when he got recruited or when he committed to Clemson, what his awards were. But he's a guy who is recognized in his division or in his 4A, 3A, whatever class it is in high school. He's definitely a guy. A lot of people wrote him off. Oh, this is the coach's son. But he's somebody who balled on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball in high school and was, kind of like an all-star type level in his division or whatever region, I guess, whatever you want to say for high school. So excited to see what he's going to do. The big guy that we want to talk about real quick is going to be Cornell Powell. All right. Now, this is one that I grilled Dabo Swinney about in a very last practice before COVID hit. Didn't really grill him. I just said, hey, Dabo, you're talking about Cornell Powell. Again, this is another year. You're talking about how awesome he's doing in practice. And we knew that 2019, he did awesome in the spring game. We wanted to see more of that. We were excited to see him on Saturday, and nothing happened. I said, Dabo, I know you're saying this. It's not that I'm not trusting you, but what is he going to need to take it to the next level? And he said it's all between the ears. It's all mental for Cornell Powell. It's all taking it to the next step. Maybe this is the opportunity for him. Maybe this is kind of where the stars aligned. You know, a negative, a bad thing for Justin Ross, for sure. But maybe all for good. Maybe there's a plan in there where Cornell Powell can show his skills and actually step up. And it seems as though he's doing so, as there's no or under his name. It's Cornell Powell as a starting wide receiver there. On the other side, Joseph Gada. Now, we originally predicted Ladson and Gada and Rogers. This is going to be, we were almost right, Gada, Rogers, Howell. I'm excited to see. I think that Powell, he's like a bodybuilder out there. He's super buff, big time arms. I think he can fight people for those one-on-one balls. He's not super tall. He's 6 foot, but he's 210. I think he could be one of those big time possession guys where you really need somebody to get in a space and fight for possession on a ball and maybe get that third down. Maybe Cornell Powell becomes that third down guy. What's your thoughts, Al?
Yeah, I like Cornell Powell. I mean, we thought he was going to be a superstar when he got here. And, he just hasn't been that yet. Like you said, he had a huge spring game last year, and we thought it was finally his time to shine, and it just didn't happen. But if you listen to the coaches and the players over the spring and the summer, they were doing some interviews. I think I was listening to 105.5 The Roar, and they were doing some player interviews. It may have even been Trevor Lawrence. I don't remember which player they were talking to, but they kind of asked about a surprise name, and they mentioned Cornell Powell. And so the players knew about it. The coaches obviously know about it. But we all as fans pegged Gada, Ladson, and Rogers as the inherent starters. We all assumed that was kind of who it was going to be. And Powell seems to have got it fixed between the ears. Whatever, light bulb needed to come on has come on, and he's ready to play. Because, like you said, there's no or next to his name. It was definitely a surprise for me to see that, but I'm glad to see it. I think, like you said, he's a very physical guy. He's a big guy. He can go up and catch those 50-50 balls. I hope, even though he doesn't have a lot of the height, he can catch a ball in traffic, I guess is a better way to put that. Look out for him to kind of get, make a lot of plays, make a name for himself this year. It kind of something we've been waiting on as Tiger fans for a long time.
I would say, I hope everybody's right. I hope that this is his year to take off. I would be thrilled to see that happen. But I also will say that I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep.
I want him to have an amazing senior year and to kind of ride off into the sunset. Or if given the eligibility rules, if he wants to come back next year and ball out again, by all means do that. But I'm still just kind of wait and see mode with this. It wouldn't surprise me at all if maybe they're just giving it a shot for this first game, and if it's not, then you may see Ladson put into that other spot, or maybe even EJ Williams. But once again, I'm just going to be in wait and see mode with Cornell Powell. I'm waiting, and I'm hoping that he does turn out to be an amazing wide receiver this year and have an amazing year. But I got to see it first.